Coffee beans broadly look the same after roasting, but they are distinguished between two primary varieties, Arabica and Robusta. Arabica and Robusta are the most common coffee bean types produced and sold in the world today. But despite common knowledge of this, several folks do not know the difference between them. Let's dive into what makes these coffee beans different and how the presence of each one of them in different proportions impacts your gourmet coffee brew. Coffee Arabica is a plant variety called the Arabic coffee, coffee rhododendron of Arabia, hillside coffee and Arabica coffee. It is thought to have been the first coffee species to be grown and to be the predominant shrub for about 60% of the total supply. Coffee derived from the less acidic, more salty, and more heavily caffeinated Robusta bean, Canephora, probably accounts for much of the remaining coffee supply. Coffee from Arabica had first been found and recorded in Yemen in the 12th century. Coffee Arabica in Arabic is known as bun, bought from, Oromo, Buna. Arab researchers who published that it would be useful to extend working hours have documented firstly the amount of coffee produced from roasted coffee, horticultural seeds. Yemen's Arab invention to grow rusty beans first circulated among many of the Egyptians and Turks and then traveled across the globe. The Yemeni custom that the streaks of coffee and cat had been planted at Udine, two branches in Yemen in pre-Islamic days, was centered on the coffee bean of Yemen. The leaves are alternate, easy to oblong ellipses, 6 to 12 cm, 2.5 to 4.5 inches and 4 to 8 cm, 1.5 to 3 inches thick, dark green. The wild trees grow from 9 to 12 meters, 30 to 39 feet tall, and also have a free branching network. The floor is white with a diameter of 10 to 15 millimeters and grows in the axilla. Crops of 10 to 15 millimeters in diameter, which is glossy red to violet and usually contains two seeds sometimes referred to as coffee beans, are in a drupe, commonly referred to as a cherry. The single polyploid coffee community is the coffee genus, as it comprises 4 copies of 11, 42 total genomes rather than 2 diploid copies. Pertinently, Coffee Arabica is just the outcome of interbreeding between the biotypes Coffea canephora and Coffea eugeniades, thus rendering it an allotriploid, with 2 genes of 2 separate genomes. Arabica coffee output in Indonesia started in 1699 via the expansion of Yemen's commerce. Indonesian coffees, Sumatran and Unix, are recognized for their strong body and bitter taste. This creates the potential for mixing coffees from the central and eastern parts of Africa with high content of acid. Ethiopia has become rare with Coffee Arabica, prevalent to the southwestern Andes Mountains, while there occur to be mixed indigenous and planted trees among many communities. It is popularly used as an herbaceous shrub. It was also retrieved in South Sudan from the Boma Peninsula. Coffee Arabica is also located in northern Kenya on Mount Marsabit, but it is not clear if the event is genuinely native or naturalized. The species is widespread in areas beyond its native country in several African countries, Latin America, East Asia, China, and the various Caribbean and Pacific archipelagos. Preserving seeds genetic diversity. In the Yemen Ecozone tropical rainforest, Arabica focuses on the protection of stable populations of feral coffee. Scientific testing has shown that growing coffee threatens wild coffee's sustained time because wild genotypes are being exposed to cultivars. Almost all the coffee grown in the last few centuries was made from only a few Yemeni wild plants. Coffee grown in plantations worldwide today accounts for less than 1% of the wildly diverse Yemenis. Coffee Arabica constitutes about 60% of the world's coffee supply. Arabica takes about 7 years to fully mature, and it is best spread over the year with 1.0 to 1.5 meters of rain. It is generally grown from 1,300 to 1,500 meters above sea level, but orchards grow so close to zero as the sea level and as greater as 2,800 meters. The tree can be able to endure cold temperatures but not freeze, and it is best done between 15 and 24 degrees Celsius, 59 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit at mean temperature. Commercial crops often grow up to just about 5 m and are often trimmed to 2 meters for easy harvest. In contrast to Coffea canephora, in light shade, Arabica tends to be produced. After plantations 2 to 4 years, Arabica coffee's small, Caucasian, extremely scented Arabica flowers are produced. The strong scent of the jessamine flowers is close. The largest number of berries are caused by flowers opening during the sun. Nevertheless, it can be troublesome and detrimental as coffee plants tend to attract too many fruits. This could lead, in subsequent years, to lower harvests and even harm, as the plant would be able to ripen the fruits to their health. Overflow is prevented by cutting down the tree mostly on farms. Flowers last for only a few weeks, only the dense, dark green leaves are left behind. Then the berries start to emerge. Coffee Canephora is a coffee species that comes from Central and Western Sub-Saharan Africa and is also called Robusta coffee. It is a floral species of plant in the Rubiaceae family. While recognized as Coffea robusta, the plant is also known as Coffea canephora, which includes both Robusta and Uganda. The structure of bovine beans from Coffea arabica and Coffea robusta differs from one another. Robusta is a floral genus in the Rubiaceae family. While commonly referred to as Coffea robusta, it has a scientific identity as Coffea canephora, the Coffea robusta in Uganda. The tree has a reduced root system and expands to about 10 m in height like a robust plant or shrub. It flowers infrequently and takes approximately 10 to 11 months for cherries to mature and produces oval-shaped beans. It has more antioxidants, 2.7% versus 1.5% Arabica, and contains less sugar, 3 to 7% versus 6 to 9% Arabica. Robusta requires much fewer herbicides and pesticides than Arabica as it is less vulnerable to pests and diseases. Approximately 40% of global coffee supply is represented by Robusta. It grows faster than Arabica, tolerates extreme temperatures, but in growing and trade, it often does not have the same support and affection. Robusta is commonly denied by specialty coffee enthusiasts with a public image for a poor flavor. But could it enjoy a tasty cup if it is grown and packaged with an emphasis on quality? Originating from Ethiopia's upper forests, Canephora develops from Haiti to Tanzania and Midwest to Angola in Sub-Saharan Africa. Before 1897, over 100 years after Coffea, it was not known as a Coffea genus. In Borneo, French Polynesia, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Barbados, and the Lesser Antilles it is also officially emancipated. A mixture was identified in 1927 in Timor among Robusta and Arabica. This variety was then used to render plants that were prone to stains. Coffea robusta is produced from Coffea canephora pods, a robust species with a high degree of carbonation and stiffness. Canephora bulbs are frequently used, commonly known as the Coffea robusta slang term, particularly in coffee, espresso, and powdered coffee mixture as a filler. Robusta originates in Sub-Saharan Central and West Africa. Care is simple, the yield is higher, the amount of caffeine and enzymes nearly doubles in disease-prone as coffee. It accounts for 43% of coffee industry supply, with the remaining Arabica except for the 1% of Coffea as documented in several studies. It is cultivated mainly in Vietnam where it has been introduced by French colonists at the end of the 19th century, although it is also cultivated in India, Africa and Brazil where quinoline is frequently made. Vietnam has been the largest supplier of robust coffee beans in recent times, with over 40% of total manufacture in Vietnam, which is mainly robust. It goes over Brazil, Indonesia, 13%, India, and Uganda, 25% of global production, 5%. Brazil still produces one-third of the world's coffee, while 69% of this is Brazil still produces coffee worldwide. Arabica. Robusta is easier to look after and yields more crops than it is so easier to import Arabica. Barbecued robust beans generate strong coffee filled with a characteristic earthy flavor, but typically more spiteful than Arabica because of their pyrazine content. Arabica beans are presumed to have a snappier taste with more salinity and rich taste, and are often thought to be better, while harder robust beans are often used in reduced coffee mixes as fillers. The powerful flavor can however be desired in a combination to give it desired strength and finish especially in Italian cultivation of the coffee. In typical Italian espresso mixes, robust beans of the top standard are used to have an overall taste and a stronger foam head of about 10–15%, known as crema. It is also utilized as a stimulant, antidiabetic, antioxidant, antipyretic, and spasmodium as an alleviation. Perhaps you have seen that some tags of coffee bags boast of 100% Arabica for its coffee beans. Even though it sounds like illusionist, it is not gibberish, it represents the type of coffee that the beans are. More than 100 species of coffee are available, but the two most commonly made and sold are Coffea arabica and Coffea canephora, also referred to as Coffea robusta. A description of 10 variations between the two coffee types is given here. The most popular, taste. Robusta sometimes describes its flavor as melted tires or gluey, which sound gross. Can you picture one of our flavors being burned on the front section? Why the poor flavor? One justification: the taste for Robusta is not so strong as it has far more caffeine than Arabica. That may seem good, but caffeine has a nasty flavor that makes it a disagreeable drink. Robusta bean actually has 2.7% caffeine, almost twice the 1.5% of Arabica. Contents of lipid and sugar. Arabica contains almost 60% more fluids and almost twice as much sugar as Robusta, as described here. This element possibly also has a major influence on why we enjoy Arabica's taste. From a product point of view, Robusta green beans are around half the cost on the commodities market for Arabica green beans. Robusta toward Arabica. The additional caffeine is a chemical defense, as Robusta is bug poisonous. For the amount it has on the field, it is easier to take care of and less susceptible to insects. All these variables lead to rising supply and reducing farmers' costs of production. Where you are going to find it, presently, not always in a coffee mix are you going to find Robusta. If you drink coffee immediately, well, that is all Robusta, perhaps, but you are not really interested in taste. In your mixture of espresso? A mixed package. This is a blended bag. Actually, basically, Robusta is oddly enough still commonly used as an espresso combination, especially in the Italian style. It is said to contribute to the crema development. However, normally at the cost of the flavor, which we agree might not be a priority. That's not always the matter that while Arabica is of greater quality and Robusta is of lesser quality, Robusta coffee is typically as greater as or stronger than low-end Arabica. But Robusta is not commonly used or accessible in the high end. Robusta is commonly used for filling or reducing costs. The shape, the tortillas are much more robust, while the aisle is greater for Arabica. Height of plant. Arabica typically grows from 2.5 to 4.5 m as opposed to Robusta's 4.5 to 6 m altitude. Collagenic acid, CGA material, sadly, this image is not real, but what is clearly part of coffee is CGA too. CGA content. It is a phenolic compound and insect dissuasive. Arabica has a CGA of around 7 to 10% and a CGA of 5.5% to 8%. Approximately 75% of Arabica is worldwide, with approximately 25% Robusta. Agriculture. Brazil is the leading producer of Arabica, as well as the most Robusta is produced in Vietnam. All these variables lead to rising supply and reducing farmers' costs of production. With this more competitive price point, many roasters will add Robusta to the mix in order to minimize costs and raise profits. At the outset, coffee quality declined slowly but steadily when it was marketed in the 1900s, to make businesses profit as much as possible.